Hello, thanks for joining us today for our Measuring Negotiation Training Impact. My name is Mark Sharp. I'm the Director of Marketing with Red Bear Negotiation, and we're ready to get started. So, a few important announcements before we get started. So, first, this session will be available on demand for repeat viewing or sharing with colleagues. Also, please submit any questions by clicking on the question mark icon in the toolbar on the right of your screen. And finally, please take a moment to complete the survey at the end of today's session to help us plan for future webinars. Okay, so before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit about Red Bear. Red Bear Negotiation Company is a global performance improvement firm dedicated to maximizing the profitability of the agreements negotiated with suppliers, customers, partners, and colleagues. Our consultants have delivered in more than 15 different languages globally and have worked in North and South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, and Australia. Our work helps organizations reduce cost, increase profitability, manage risk, increase internal alignment, and support achievement of critical corporate goals. Our proven approach helps our clients achieve desired business results and significant improvements in human performance. Every Red Bear workshop is custom tailored around client-specific challenges and features our trademark discovery-based learning approach, allowing participants to test existing skills and apply new techniques in engaging and challenging real-world negotiation scenarios. So I'm pleased to have with us today Susan Trumpler, President of Beyond ROI, an independent third-party measurement firm. For over 20 years, Beyond ROI has successfully measured the impact of training initiatives for local companies, Fortune 500 organizations, and multinational corporations. Beyond ROI offers an innovative, streamlined, and approachable process for quantifying training return on investment and helping organizations study how behavior change can translate into business results. Susan is a coach, podcaster, best-selling author, and self-described nerd when it comes to helping people become better at what they're passionate about. Susan, thanks for joining us.
Mark, it is a pleasure to be here with you today and with everyone out there. Hello.
Hello. So I want to talk a little bit as we get started about why measurement is such an important part of what Red Bear does. It's actually part of our 4-step engagement process. So it's a vital part of what we do. So let me take a little bit of time just to talk about that 4-step process. It begins with our blueprinting. Our blueprinting stage, during the blueprinting stage, we work to define the scope and goals of the training engagement. This ensures we are aligned with leadership and focused on the outcomes desired. We then interview 4 to 6 subject matter experts to understand typical client negotiation challenges and scenarios, such as what is being negotiated, where and with whom it's being negotiated, and how do these negotiations tend to play out. With these insights, we then custom tailor negotiation exercises based on real-world negotiation scenarios. This allows participants to practice applying new skills and techniques for immediate application in their job. Our discovery learning stage, these are our Red Bear workshops, and they're ideal for groups of 20, but can host 8 to 24 at a time, typically over 2 days. Workshops are available for in-person delivery, as well as remotely through our virtual instructor-led workshops across a range of online platforms such as Zoom, WebEx, Teams, and more. Our virtual workshops offer flexible scheduling options of 2 full days, 4 half days, and hybrid scheduling. Participants learn, practice, and apply new negotiation skills through a series of different metaphorical and custom-tailored negotiation exercises to build confidence and competence to immediately apply new skills in real-world negotiations. This is not your typical lecture and recitation of simple skills. This is actually getting in and doing it. It's hands-on learning, which is so incredibly important for helping adults drive towards lasting habit change. And that's backed up by our reinforcement. So our 100 minutes video-based reinforcement and application platform helps to drive that lasting skills adoption using real world applications, allowing learners to practice applying new skills and allow managers to practice active coaching techniques. Now, this is often coupled with our coaching and reinforcement workshop, which is a full day workshop that guides managers through a clear action plan for coaching their people to use their negotiation skills on the job. And then here, finally, this fourth step in our engagement process is measurement. We believe what gets measured gets improved, and what gets measured and reported improves exponentially. That's why we partner with Susan and Beyond ROI as our independent third-party partner to track and measure how participants apply newly learned skills in actual negotiations and examine the impact on their business results. So I'm going to turn it over to Susan to explain how they do it.
Excellent. Excellent. And before we go there, Mark, why don't we find out kind of the sentiment in the audience around measurement? So I think you have a poll that you can pop up there really quickly around, as a participant, do you currently measure the effectiveness of training initiatives, or have you measured it in the past? So if you wouldn't mind, Mark, maybe you can describe how to take the poll.
Yeah, so I've just launched the poll. It will be open for a little over a minute and it should appear on your screen. So if you could just go ahead and select yes or no, and we'll wait for those answers to start coming in. There's a slight delay. So
excellent.
We'll get a gauge on the room as to whether or not this is actively a part of their training initiatives.
Perfect. And the reason we want to do this, guys, is because Mark and I are here to answer your questions. And my experience through running the company is that there's a lot of, kind of preconceived notions about measuring the effectiveness of training. And we're really curious on where you stand, where your organization stands around measurements. What do you need to know today in order for you to have a clear understanding when you walk away of whether or not it's something that you want to have a focus on for your organization?
Okay, Susan, so we've got some results back on that question, and it looks like 75% of organizations are not currently measuring the impact of training initiatives.
Yeah.
The good news is that 25% is.
Perfect. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I have to say that is not unusual ratio, right? Not an unusual ratio. But I've been involved in doing measurement for a really long time. And today is all about just helping you understand like why an organization wants to do it. What are, kind of the guiding principles around it. And then we'll walk through the methodology that really works. And then answer questions around, if you were going to do this, whether with or, with an organization like Red Bear or on your own. We just want to bring this to you so you have the information available. All right. So let's just talk about the guiding principles. Here's the thing, guys. I think, and I don't know the roles that you're all in, but I believe that folks who are in charge of developing people, whether it's negotiation training, sales process, change management, whatever it is, it has changed. The perspective has changed so much over the last 15 years or so. We used to, because I was part of that when I was out in the corporate world, we used to think of this as our job to figure out what needs to be done. What do people need and what's our sense around it? And I think that's the biggest shift that has happened is that you're not alone in a container any longer. I believe, and this is the first principle, I believe that the focus is on the business and what the business needs most right now in order to move forward. So if you're doing your planning and you're looking at the line of businesses, you're looking at it at more of an objective, metric-based perspective now, more than it used to be in the past. It used to be just like, somebody would go out and see a speaker and go, oh yeah, let's bring that in. That'd be kind of cool to introduce. And that's not really the best way to determine what you need to measure. or what you need to train on. And hence, once you measure it, what are you looking for as a result? So making certain that what you're offering to your people and you're measuring is a clear indication of the direction that the business is headed is so critical. But here's the next principle is that you want to be connected to the line of business in a way that, in essence, they have a scorecard. That's the only way I can put it, is there is a scorecard that each business unit or each focus of the business is measured as successful. If you create your measurements focused on the scorecard and the metrics within what they're measured for to be successful, you're so much farther ahead. And that's another area I've seen really change in the last 5 years, because technology has really changed in in their ability to be able to track metrics and push it out, the CRM situation or anything that is management MBOs. You're definitely have more hard numbered type of metrics that you can tie your measurement to. So that's the second thing that I think is really important. So focus on the business and then tie your measurement results to the metrics or the scorecard for the line of business and the area that you're impacting. All right, the third thing, and this is a really big one, because when I talk with clients about measuring the impact of sales of any kind of training, one of the things that I hear from stakeholders, especially the C-level executive stakeholders that hold budget, they have this perspective that you cannot prove that training impacts the organization. I don't know. I would love to know if you guys have that. The questions asked of you is like, well, how do you prove it? How do you prove it? And in some ways, they're not wrong, because no matter what you're trying to move, no matter what metric you're trying to move, if it's negotiation, if it's sales training, if it's process training, there's so many moving pieces that go into moving business metrics that to say any one thing made all the difference in the world is really overstating the impact. So here's our methodology and the principle that we deploy in this when we put our results together. We are not looking for proof. What you want to do is look for evidence of progress. And when I go into the methodology specifically, you will see exactly what I mean by that, because there's a way that you can track indicators so that you can do almost like a comparison and an effectiveness kind of correlation between it. So we'll talk about that more when we get into the methodology. But the important thing is, do not over promise on what a measurement will do for you. If you set the right expectations around tracking progress, you will have stakeholders that will find your results credible and will move forward in their logic with you. But many times it's oversold and then kind of there's a disappointment. All right. So here's the other thing. And the last principle is that you're probably already doing some measurement. But the question is, can you do it better? So let me give you an example of that. I was talking with someone within a operations department, and they said, yeah, if we send our procurement folks to a training, and they're in the training and they come back, we just check to see, like are the metrics shifting? Okay, so are percentages of discounting going down, or is there an impact on what you're giving away or concessions and different things that can be tracked? And so they're directly correlating. Someone attended, so what's happening? What's changing? And you are measuring, but when we go into the methodology, what Mark and the whole Red Bear team and ourselves are stand on is that you can improve where you're measuring to get better insights if you include the full methodology that Red Bear partners with us on to incorporate. Okay, so those are the kind of the 5 pillars, or the, guiding principles behind measurement. If you have questions, like I'm not kidding, guys. We're going to leave a lot of time for Q&A towards the end. So if you have, and I love questions like this. It doesn't have to be, I don't understand it. We love questions that are, I don't know. I need more on that one because I still have a little seedling in my mind that's going, not sure about that, Susan. So anything at all that you have, drop in the little question area, and we'll make certain that we address that before we finish up today. All right. So that is it in regards to our guiding principles. And Mark, is there anything that you may think I have left out there or that I should expand on before moving on to the next part regarding connecting?
No, I think you've covered it all, and I look forward to kind of hearing you talk a little bit about the cause and effect.
Awesome. Let's go there. Let's go there. I'm going to see if I can do this as elegantly as you do, Mark. That's going to be bringing up our slides. There we go. Are you seeing the cause and effect slide, Mark?
Yes. Yep. It's up
Awesome.
there for me.
Perfect. Then I think everyone is seeing it. All right. So here's the methodology, people. It is a little bit of behavioral studies. You introduce someone to something. You ask them to make a change. The question is, are they doing it? So on the left-hand side, the cause is the behavior shift that you're looking for. And the question is, how much behavior is shifting? So we're just going to use one program as an example, one negotiation program that Red Bear offers. We've studied the program. We know the learning objectives, and we know what behaviors you're looking to shift in your people, or their clients are looking to shift in their people. So we have those very specific behaviors on a scale, an effectiveness rating scale. We write behavioral outcome analysis questions that the participants answer. And we don't ask for their opinion. We don't say, hey, do you like that thing around tension, right? Or how good are you at this? That is not going to give us good results or good insights. What we do is we ask them, how often, when you're in a negotiation conversation, how often does your customer, does the person you are in conversation with, give you something that you're looking for, or give you an agreement, or do this? So it's the behavioral outcome of the person you are in conversation with, the person you are influencing. We can tell based on the answers to these questions whether or not the person is highly effective across the skills and the behaviors, or if they are someone who's on the lower scale of effectiveness. And so at the end of the day, we have, in essence, a stack ranking, not only by person to say, here's the people who are highly effective. We call them high adopters. Here are the folks who came, they listened, but they're not hitting it. They're struggling. And those are the low adopters. But not only do we know that at an overall all 19 skills picture, but we drill down skill by skill for you and tell you, here's what's working well within the body of work that they've been introduced to. And here's where there's room for coaching and reinforcement, people. I know you're all standing up right now, cheering, clapping your hands. Yay! Because whenever I say coaching and reinforcement, everyone gets excited. But here's the thing. You can't expect lasting behavior shifts if you don't know where people are having challenges. And so the insights of a very good measurement will share specifically for each person, where is it that they are just killing it? They've got it. And where are they having challenges? And how can you use this information to continue to sustain and drive the initiative forward and have it become something that gets into their DNA. All right. So the leading indicators of success is behavior shifts, which have to be linked to the lagging indicator of success, which is the business impact. And remember when I said progress, not proof. Here's where we're starting to bring statistics into the picture and say, okay, if we've got this pool of high adopters who are highly effective at what they learned and they're applying it within their conversations and within their negotiations, are they getting different business results than the folks that are not as effective. And so now you're starting to really hone in on, is there a change happening in business based on effective negotiation skills in this circumstance? All right. So the lagging indicators, now we're going back to our principles around it's got to be on the scorecard, the organizational's lagging indicators. So we've picked some that are across the board when it comes to either sales negotiation or procurement negotiation. We have separate indicators for each of them. And we're looking for some things like around increasing the deal value or expanding relationships, avoiding concessions and discounting, and then using something within the body of work that is called elegant negotiables. That Red Bear does a beautiful job. It's really a way of doing the dance with your folks. And are we able to use those in order to move the deal forward? So sometimes it's even velocity. But when you think about the progress, making progress, and cross-correlating the effectiveness linked to the bottom, in essence, the lagging indicators of success. That is hence the type of insights that you're going to get both on leading and lagging side from a measurement study through Beyond ROI. And obviously, because we're we're partners with Red Bear, this is what we're doing to produce results for the programs that we're measuring within Red Bear. So that's the methodology. If anyone has any questions whatsoever regarding either the leading indicators or lagging indicators, pop those in where you see the question mark in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to go through just a couple snapshots of what the indicators look like, or what the deliverables, the insights look like from a measurement. And then we're going to hop right into some Q&A and take all of your questions and dig into a little bit more detail. All right. So here we go. When you think about the leading indicators and you think about the breadth of any training you're introducing someone to, there's usually categories of skills and behaviors. So we love to share insights based on first the breakdown of what area of the negotiation in the situation are we able to see moved more. And here's one thing that you're now seeing is that we love, and I don't know, we get asked this question more than any other question. We get asked the question, how do we stand compared to others? Right, Mark? It's crazy. Every company that we measure wants to know where they stand according to other people who've taken the same training. So the work that we do with our training partners, we create a very specific benchmark based on a meta-analysis that we do across multiple companies that come in, and then we're able to share with the company where they stand according on that scale according to others. And we do have a very specific power rating scale. You can see power view rating scale in the lower left-hand corner, where don't worry that 56%, when I was in school, 56% would mean you're failing, right? But that's not the scale that we're on. I want you to think about it this way. As you see these slides, anything that is frequently effective, if people are frequently effective, it is benchmarked at about a 75% effectiveness. And that is what we would consider the gold standard. So if an organization is below 75%, they know they have some room for growth. 56%, as you're seeing on this slide, tells them they're doing okay. They're more than sometimes effective, which is 50%, but they're not at that 75%. So now we're going back to the coaching and support. All right, if this was your organization, you would take a look at this and you'd say, looks like planning the negotiation is an area that we need to focus more support on. So then we give you back detail, skill by skill for each area of the negotiation and say, all right, which of the skills within planning the negotiation seem to be the most challenging? So you can see in the upper left-hand corner, there are 6 skills that we're measuring, and the one at the bottom is the one that is the in essence, the one that if you were going to be in charge of making certain that this initiative maximized its effectiveness, you'd be looking to the bottom of that list to see where you needed to put some attention on reinforcement and support. So we call it actionable insights, because when you get our ROI back, our reports back, it's not just a slap yourself on the back and go, wow, we made a great decision. We're getting a great lagging indicator on this initiative. We're saying, yeah, you are, and there can be more. And so if you utilize the insights within this, then you have action for reinforcement and support that'll deepen it. All right. Now, here's another thing. I've mentioned it a couple times. I can't stop talking about it because I truly, as a coach myself, I know that um, the support that you give your people will make all the difference in the world. And so being able to provide the organization with these insights gives leaders an opportunity to do laser coaching. So we have 6 areas of coaching activities that we believe are important, anywhere from helping people prepare for negotiations all the way down through giving them feedback, debriefing, and appropriate support, right? So we want to be able to share where coaching is going well in the organization and where there needs to be a little bit more. And every organization we deal with has a different culture. Sometimes the coaching is off the charts as far as high levels of coaching, and sometimes it's almost non-existent. And I can tell you there is a direct correlation. When we see high levels of coaching, we see at least a 20% increase in skill effectiveness from a training initiative. 20% increase. And so there's this thing called the causal chain. If you introduce someone to something, some training, that's the first step. You introduce it. If you support it, they adopt it more. If they adopt it more, they get more results. If things fall off the wagon anywhere along that causal chain, you're not going to maximize the impact of the initiative that you have invested in. So that's something that's, again, deep within the methodologies and core of our organization. It's what we live and breathe by, and it's what also Red Bear has adopted by partnering with us to do these measurements. All right. Everybody wants to know the lagging indicators. That's like the table stakes. You have to have them. And so we are able to give you 2 levels of lagging indicators when we're doing our work with Red Bear. So the first one is, in any measurement study, your folks are going to be asked to provide a success story. Tell us about a specific situation where you have used these skills and you have gotten results. And tell us specifically, what is it about, in this case, situational negotiation skills? What part of that work made a difference? How did you use it? Now here's where we're starting to link together the actual lagging indicator. Were you able to decrease costs or avoid discounts? Were you able to expand the deal? Tell us what made the difference and how much of a difference did it make, right? So your success stories, we call it a snapshot. That's a snapshot of business that's been impacted by the training initiative. That's the first level. When we get into large studies with companies and they are tracking in a system, like I would mention before, some form of a scorecard type system, we can do some amazing cross correlations around overarching metrics and doing the cross correlations between effectiveness and the movement of those metrics year over year, prior to training, post training. So it can get really detailed and really deep, or it may be a little more on the anecdotal side, like what you're seeing on this slide. Lots and lots of information that are available to you. All right. I think that we have gone long enough on these slides. Mark, I'm going to stop the slides, I think, or maybe you need to do that.
Sure.
All right.
There you go.
There we go. All right. I think I've got more that I can share, but at this moment, I have laid so much out there for y'all. I don't want you to be left in the dust. So tell me, what kind of questions do you have or have been queued up, Mark?
Yeah, so we've got one question that came in. And the question is, how do you know if That was the quality of the training versus the negotiation model, and which one needs review.
Mm. And the negotiation model, you're talking about what you're introducing within.
My interpretation of the question is that they are wanting to know if the impact was
Mhm.
from the quality of the training or from the model. And I think maybe it might be the inverse when they ask about which one needs review, is that if there happened to be poor performance, is it due to
Mm.
the quality of the training, the actual
Right.
instruction, versus the potential that the model encompasses?
All right. So I'm gonna take that in almost like a two-step answer. So if the model, we call it variables or variates. So if the model was present before the training, and the only thing that changed was the training, and there was a difference before or after, then it points towards the evidence that it was the training that made the difference. All right. If you're changing the model and introducing new behaviors, then you have to incorporate both of those things into the measurement in order to identify what specifically needs to be supported, right? Does that make sense, Mark?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, it does make sense. It does make
No worries.
sense. So we've got a related question in addition to that. That is, how much can the improvement be associated with the quality of instruction or with the model, as opposed to other factors that are outside of that, such as
Mm,
different factors that might take place among the participants of the negotiation, or factors affecting the companies or
sure.
corporations in the negotiation. So if you could speak a little bit to that.
Oh, happy to. Happy to. So, now we're on the statistics side, right? So it is, if the sample is large enough and we have multiple presenters, right? Multiple, and I have to go to variance again. If everyone is being introduced to the same model and the same skills or behaviors, but the variant is different people presenting, can we compare the results, and especially down to the skill level, and say, given that all the variables are the same, and sometimes you have to take into consideration variables that are outside of the actual training environment, right? So you might have, I've done studies where I've imported tenure. Like, how long has someone been in their role? How much negotiation experience do they have? And who were they introduced to this by from? And then also, who are they being supported by? How much coaching are they getting? So you keep adding these variates into the picture until you're able to turn the data in a way that shows, it starts to reveal, oh, it looks like there's an area of challenge within this one, sector or trainer. Everybody's different in the way they communicate things. So a measurement can definitely help you hone in on what is changing. If all things are the same except this variable, then what's within this variable that's making the difference?
That's the piece that I like about this so much too, Susan, is that when it gets down to the individual's application
Mhm.
of that skill, it really shows whether or not they're taking the steps to have the greatest impact. And that if not, it lends itself to that coaching component, which is ultimately what helps to drive that lasting behavior change. And so it's not just the outcome, but as you said, it's the progress, right? It's not the proof, it's the progress that makes such an important distinction.
That's exactly right. It is. I want you all to think about measurement as a window into what's happening. Without measurement, you're really guessing. You have no idea, because Mark and I may both show up at a training, and Mark will glom on to certain things based on how his experience or his preferences, and I may glom on to something else or avoid something else. Without understanding effectiveness down to the skill level, you're just kind of guessing. Well, let's just go out there and do the same thing for everyone. But Mark does not need the same thing I need. in order to increase my effectiveness. So it's one of those things where, I'm not disparaging the previous question in any way, but it comes down to, what does that person need now? Like now. Here's their set of 19 behaviors. Here's what they're really strong at, and here's where they are struggling. And how can we help their leader know how to support that person from this point forward so they can get better at the ones that we're not as strong at?
And that's an important point too with our discovery process, that blueprinting phase, is that most of all of our clients come in with a certain expectation that if we focus on this area, say it's negotiation planning, that will help us to execute that negotiation better by thinking more about the questions, thinking about the information that we're trying to protect or uncover, and that performance will essentially lead to greater results. Now, if folks aren't applying those behaviors or those skills, and there's no expected outcome, then that helps to understand, well, it's an execution issue. If they're executing those things and the results aren't there, well, then maybe there's a little bit something different that's at play. But I think that's an important thing, and that kind of helps us transition a little bit to, how this is deployed, how far across an organization, and kind of the timing on when a study is actually performed and what's being focused on. Could you talk a little bit about that?
100%. Yes. So timing is so important, and especially because there is a sweet spot after you've introduced someone to new concepts. There is this bell curve where they'll try them out and they'll do something effective, but if it's not kept front and center and top of mind, it's going to start fading, and people's natural tendency is to fall back to their old behaviors and what's comfortable, right? So there's another factor that goes into the sweet spot, is how much are they being coached and reinforced? If they go back to their role, their leader was in it, and they are, they're in the trenches with them on a regular basis, making certain they're keeping it alive, refreshing the work, doing follow-up, then the timing can go out a little bit further. So it's a sliding scale, that it has to be the right thing for each organization based on those things. But here's the bottom line. Your people need to have had an opportunity to learn and go and apply, because this is level 3. If anyone's familiar with the Kirkpatrick model of measurement, we're talking level 3 application. It is not knowledge, and it's not sentiment, which is level 1 and 2. It's level 3 application. So your folks have had an opportunity to go out and use the information they learned and then respond from an experience standpoint. So it's the sweet spot is the intersection of, I've applied it enough and it is still in my repertoire of what I'm trying to use. 90 days is, if I like, Mark's like, oh my goodness, woman, will you just get to it? 90 days is what we consider a sweet spot to start with. And then whenever we work with an organization, we're always like taking into consideration those variables and adjusting based on that.
Yeah, we have found too with some of our clients that there's seasonality, if you will, or different time periods where they're more heavily invested in negotiations than other times of the year, and so it helps to organize around those timeframes as well. We did have a question come in, and this question is related to again that timing. Is this type of study something that is done just in conjunction with training, or is it something that can be and should be adopted on an ongoing regular basis to kind of gauge performance and application of skills? So again, so that there's not that drop off.
Correct. Yes, we have had companies remeasure. So they may do the first one after the training in that sweet spot time, and that will be their first, we'll call it a baseline. And then maybe 6 months later, and then again, when on a frequency that they feel is appropriate. And here's what I always say, Mark, is if you're doing some form of reinforcement and support, I'm all for remeasuring and seeing, okay, how do we tweak what we're doing now to support our people? But if you're just introducing it and then measuring it, in measuring it and then measuring it again in 6 months, you're not going to see a big change. As a matter of fact, it may go down. So it has to do with, absolutely, you can remeasure to modify and tweak your reinforcement and support.
One of the other factors that I know is important, especially with kind of an organization-wide deep deployment, is that those insights that you get off of this study of being able to see what your high adopters and your high performers are doing that's leading to success,
Yes.
and then bringing that back to the organization at large. I would imagine that having repeat measurements also helps to drive that even further into the organization. Can you talk a little bit about how managers can use those insights over time to bring those high adopter, those high performing skills across the board to the organization?
For certain. And I think the word that I like to use is evangelists. You're going to have a certain part of your population who becomes your evangelists for this methodology, whatever you're introducing someone to. And people who are in the trenches together, whether they're in sales or procurement, wherever they are, they look to their peers to see, like, what's going on? Why are they on fire? Why are they getting better results than I am? So there has to be almost an opportunity for you to be able to give those influencers or evangelists their light to shine, so that you can find the high adopters who are high performers and have them be the focus of what's going well. Case studies, use them as people who you're interviewing or taking advantage of their experiences to share with others. So it's almost like that crowdsourcing kind of a thing, where you put the initial salvo on the table and then let the troops kind of lead or forage the way forward with the initiatives. So
Yeah, that's great. So in the study, I got one question that came through, but I want to ask this one because I think it's a natural bridge to it. Is that it sounds as if, the amount of participants that you get in a study and the types of negotiations that they are commenting on or citing. Is there a total number that's kind of a critical mass that you need to get proper insights? And then does the type of deal impact whether or not it's a good fit or a bad fit, or is any deal or any is there any behavior that is better or worse for measuring?
Oh, that's such a great question. So I'm going to take it in a couple pieces. So if y'all recall the leading and lagging indicator slide, right? I would, as a matter of fact, I'll bring it up really quick just so that we can anchor ourselves on it again just for a moment. All right. I had mentioned that, there we go. I'd mentioned there's 2 levels of being able to analyze the ROI, analyze that pool of data. And I'm going to put it this way. I've done studies with as little as 10 people in it. And by collecting success stories, you can easily see what's going on. What are people using within the body of work? How is it impacting business? Is really good insights. It is not statistically relevant, right? So it is more anecdotal, the smaller the population. If you want to do cross correlations between effectiveness and lagging indicators, you need to have, let's call it about 50 people that have like type responsibilities. Okay, so if I've got a population in sales, and some of them are small business and some of them are enterprise, I can't cross correlate the deals from a small business. I mean, there's two. One is more transactional, the other is more solution or strategic oriented, right? So we're always looking, Mark, for making certain that if we are going to do cross correlations, that we've got the variables around types of deals and opportunities in in pools. Like, so we segment. Let's say you do, a large training and some are in each of those. Well, can we segment the two down, drill down, and see what's happening for small business compared to enterprise, right? So that's an important consideration. It's not that you can't get benefit from a measurement, but in order for it to be the highest level of insights at a statistically correlated, factor, there needs to be a certain number of people in each pool. Now, having said that, the other part is there a bad deal? I don't think there is a bad deal. I don't think if you've got lagging indicators you're trying to move, it doesn't matter, measure, but just don't expect to intermingle the types of lagging indicators, or it does muddy up the results that you get.
Very good. Very good. That's very helpful. Now, we've got one follow-up question that came in from earlier, which was related to the timing of studies.
Mm-hmm.
And the question was, if we wanted to do repeating surveys over time, what would be the appropriate time frame? Would quarterly be okay, or is annually more effective?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't say quarterly, unless you have a very transactional sales force or negotiation team, right? Procurement. You think about each organization, and this is part of the strategy that we all use as we set up each individual study. Okay, so the good news is you don't have to jump into anybody's box and do it the way they say you should. All of these factors are taken into consideration during the strategy part of the process. But I want you to think about it as what's happening, right? So you've done a big rollout of training. So they've gotten the big dump of information into their head, and you want to measure that. How long will it take for them to go out to use their skills enough to be able to give you feedback? All right, that's the first timing that you set. And then the question is, you get the results back and you analyze it as an organization and you say, here's our strategy for reinforcement of this. Here's the things that we're seeing from the insights and the actions we're going to take. Okay, now how long will it take you to roll those actions out? How long do you want them to have the coaching and support or the reinforcement and so that they have the opportunity to tweak their behaviors again before you measure them? So I would love to say, and that's why I say I don't think 3 months is enough time. I usually will start with 6 months, but a lot of it depends on the speed of which your organization is able to utilize the data that you get back, make a pivot and do the reinforcement, and then the participants have a chance to use their skills continued and give you feedback. Okay, so it's a cycle.
That's great. That's good clarification, just to understand that idea of implementation, assessment, and then taking the time to learn from it and apply it all again.
Yeah, and if could I just say one last thing, Mark? Because if you are a left brain person who's looking for a very linear process with, hard dates on it, this might be driving you crazy. I apologize for that. But here's the benefit is there's no use doing measurement just as a check the box activity. It's just why. So what we do as a partner for Red Bear, and Red Bear does as a partnership with their clients, is create a specific strategy for each measurement for their clients. So it becomes something that's meaningful when you get insights and actionable, and satisfies all the stakeholders all the way down to, the frontline managers.
Yep, that's great. It really brings it full circle, because with our 4-step process, what it does is that, like we say, in that blueprinting discovery phase, we're trying to find out what are the factors that the organization is trying to focus on for what outcome, what problem are they trying to solve, what opportunity are they trying to take advantage of, and then we build that training experience around that goal, that objective, and then we reinforce it and then measure it. So that whole process can continue to kind of play itself over and over as a part of that post-engagement kind of measurement methodology. So that's great. I appreciate that clarification.
Good.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for being here with us today and helping us understand so much about this. And what I've done in the attachments of this webinar is I've added a link to your website, as well as a couple of articles that your company has produced that helps to go over those guiding principles and really some other factors of how you go about doing your measurement and how it works. I've also put in something for how we use your program and you as an independent party to do that measurement for us. And so how our measurement's really powered by Beyond ROI. So again, those are in the attachments, and we've worked through all of our questions, I can see now. And that kind of brings us to the end of this webinar. Again, there is a survey at the end where you can help us plan for future presentations. And Susan, we'd love to have you back again to talk about other aspects of this. And so thank you so much for your time. And with that, goodbye, and we'll see you again next time.
Pleasure. Nice to be here. Take care, everybody.